good friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. It's called Culture Bucket. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Culture Bucket, Georgia and Alex.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the universe's greatest and most favourite podcast where two good, great best friends talk all things popular culture. And today is a new beginning in some ways because it's episode 101. We are past the 100 barrier, incredible scenes. And as such we're celebrating by just talking about one of our favourite things of recent times, and it is the Last of Us TV show. I can't wait to get into it and discuss it. I am George, your host, and your other host is with me, and that is Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hi, George. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 101 episode of the next 200 episode.
Yes.
100 episode. Yes. Yes. Exciting times.
Yeah, very exciting.
Because you were so obsessed with 120, so we're like 19 episodes from 120.
Yeah, we're going to have to do something really special for the 120th. We'll see.
Yes.
You
Fireworks.
want the Katy Perry song?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
About plastic bags. Loads of plastic bags.
Paper bag.
Bags.
No, do you ever feel like is it plastic or paper?
I thought it was...
Like a paper. Maybe it is plastic.
I thought it was plastic. Not very environmentally aware, are you, Katy Perry?
No.
Fireworks. Lyrics. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind?
It is plastic. I guess I was feeling more environmentally friendly.
Yeah, but also
it's
equally, paper bags don't drift through the wind.
No, they don't.
Not in the way that like a plastic bag can. It's very malleable. It gets all blown around by the wind. Paper bags tend to be a bit more. They stay down near the ground. They don't get. Their shape can't be forcibly turned into a sail in the way that a plastic bag can. Maybe
in 120th episode we should do an experiment. Which one floats in the wind?
I can tell you now we don't need to do that experiment. It's plastic bag.
I don't believe you.
Good. Right, so before we get into it, rate us, review us, talk to your friends about us, tell people about us. Rate us in-app, please. Review us in-app and tell people how good we are. We'd love to have more listeners. So,
yes.
Yeah, go and do that, please. We'll read out any reviews we get. Equally, if you go to the show notes for this and every episode, you can find links to all of our social media channels, including a place where you can buy us a coffee, if you so wish. Yeah, that's great as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk about The Last of Us?
Yes, very excited to talk about The Last of Us. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. Before we get into, say, a bit of an episode breakdown, why don't we go, what were your expectations, thoughts, fears, worries before you watched it? What was your Last of Us sort of feeling before the show started?
Well, I wasn't really up for watching it. And I made you angry as well in a text messaging exchange, WhatsApp exchange, where you were trying to convince me that I should watch The Last of Us, and I just said I didn't want to. And you got upset.
Yep.
So although I was playing, I also was like, oh, maybe I should watch it, so I just, don't lose a friend. So I wasn't up for watching it just because I haven't played the game, and I know I like zombies, but I did start watching the Walking Dead when it came out, and then I kind of got bored with it, and I just so I wasn't really up for watching it, but then I started watching it, and I knew about it because in the episode that we did about video games, you and our friend Dan talked about it, and I had to watch the trailer, and I thought it looked pretty cool. So the game looks cool, but I didn't want to embark myself into a series like this. But then I think it's not going to be that long. I think it's probably going to be like, what, 2 seasons?
It'll be probably 3 seasons.
Yeah.
'Cause-
So it's not going to be like an epic series thing. So
No,
I'm quite happy about that.
I doubt it. Which is good for this story, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. I was very excited because, as we discussed in the video game episode, I'm a huge fan of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Always enjoyed the first one, but it was The Last of Us Part 2, the second game, that really made me a concrete fan. And then since playing the second one, I've played the remake they did of the original. I actually played it just before the TV show started, and I do love that original game and story. And so going into the season of TV, I was really excited. Also, of course, I loved Pedro Pascal from things like The Mandalorian and Game of Thrones. Did you know him from anything, or was he a new...
He was, well, I watched him in the film with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yes, and I watched him in The Bubble.
Ah.
Those were my only 2 experiences. And then I watched a few episodes of The Mandalorian, but I haven't finished the series.
Yeah.
So yeah, so not very much really.
Yeah, that's fair. And also very different in The Last of Us than he is in The Bubble.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. He's sort of become one of the biggest film stars in the world now. Or
Yeah.
like,
Everybody loves him.
Yeah, and I know that Last of Us isn't a film, but it kind of is film adjacent in a lot of ways. Yeah, he's everyone's daddy, I think.
Yes.
He's the ultimate daddy.
He just seems like a really, really nice guy.
Yeah, he does. He does seem like a lovely man.
Yeah.
Maybe I think he got big at the right age in terms of like he's settled enough. He's not going to turn into kind of a lunatic. Maybe he will. I don't know. But it seems like he knows what he's doing. And hopefully he can keep. I'm sure he's looking out for Bella Ramsey as well, who we both probably had a little bit. You definitely had more knowledge of her through Catherine Called Birdie than Pedro Pascal.
Yes.
She also featured in Game of Thrones and was great in both of those things.
And she's the voice of Hilda, one of a cartoon that I really like.
What?
She's Hilda.
Is she?
Yeah.
What, in that? No, what?
Yeah, she's the voice of Hilda in Hilda. So maybe now you like it.
No, I won't. It's really boring. But fine. I didn't realise that. Because didn't Grimes do the music for it?
Yeah, Grimes did the music, but the voiceover, Hilda.
No, I know.
Bella
It's
Ramsey
just.
did Hilda.
I'm constantly surprised by how many people are involved in Hilda.
Yeah, because it's a wonderful cartoon.
It's
He's just a bitter old man.
Not true. So, yeah. Well, those are our main 2 stars. Unlike The Walking Dead, which follows a wide cast, The Last of Us obviously features more characters, but we're really following Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, and Ellie, played by Bella Ramsey, as they attempt to make their way across an apocalyptic American wasteland. Yeah. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Episode 1 is
baby.
called When You're Lost in the Darkness.
Yes.
It's the introduction episode. It has a long half-hour sequence at the start. Where we follow the days leading up to the day everything went wrong, and we follow Joel's daughter Sarah as she buys him a birthday present, and very key, doesn't eat anything that contains flour.
Yes.
Allowing her to survive the oncoming attack, but then is tragically killed by a soldier. How did you feel about that?
Well, I knew she wasn't going to make it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So, but I was still sad about it.
It's pretty brutal.
Just because they seem to have like a really good relationship, and like a healthy relationship between father and daughter. And she seems really sweet. A birthday present, she fixes his watch. So I feel like I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the character of Joel between that prologue sequence and then when we meet him in the modern day? Because in the prologue, it finishes with him sobbing, broken, holding the body of his daughter. Then it cuts to him in the present day of the show, sort of hurling the body of a child onto a fire without
Yeah.
any emotion or remorse. What did you think of him as a character early on?
Well, I guess if you live in a post-apocalyptic society, I think emotions are not really, well, they do come secondary, don't they? Because if not, you just,
Certainly,
you
if
know,
you're living in a Fedra controlled.
yeah. So I think you just do your job. He needs the money, well, whatever they coin, whatever they have. And I guess you become numb to everything, don't you?
You
Because
do.
it's like 20 years have passed. It's not a little bit like, and he still looks like a broken man, and he's still wearing the watch that his daughter has given him.
Despite it having a bullet hole in it.
Yeah, so I think, you have to become numb to it, but he's still suffering. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. We also meet Tess, who again is probably another character that you had a strong awareness. The posters for this show were Joel and Ellie, so it was probably pretty clear, even if you hadn't played the video game, that Tess wasn't going to be around for long. Did you realise that?
Well, no, I wasn't expecting to everybody that, you start liking to go in this series. I thought, but yeah, everybody that you tend to like dies, so it's not fun. But no, I didn't know she was gonna be a goner. I thought that maybe she was gonna be temporary, but I didn't realize she was gonna actually die.
So quickly as well.
Yeah, so quickly.
And we don't. It takes a while, but we do meet Ellie kind of towards the end of this episode, and I don't know. Bella Ramsey makes a pretty immediate. I think Joel's great, but I think Ellie is my favorite character across The Last of Us.
Yeah, because I think your perception of Joel, or at least my perception of Joel, mutates has mutated a lot, like from the first episode to the last episode.
Definitely.
Whilst Bella, Ellie is still, I still kind of love her. I don't. My feelings towards Joe have changed.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, that's fair. Joel definitely goes on the bigger journey as a character.
Yeah, and makes you feel lots of emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. Episode 2.
Yeah.
Sort of a partner to episode 1. It's called Infected. And it mainly follows our heroes, Joel, Ellie, and Tess, as they make their way through downtown Boston. They're in Boston, aren't they, at the start, I believe?
Yeah.
To the State House, where they're going to meet the rest of the Fireflies that are going to take Ellie across the country to the hospital, where they're going to try and use it to find a cure. We know at this point that Ellie is immune to the virus.
Yeah.
Joel and Tess are not convinced of that. I think this is the episode that opens with Ellie waking up on her own in a room and looking across to see Joel and Tess kind of watching her really nervously waiting for her to spring at them, and they can't quite believe it when she doesn't. The big, for me in this episode, the big set piece moment is in the museum with the clickers.
Yeah.
What did you think of the clickers? Because they are iconic through the games.
Yeah.
And I was really happy to see the way they portrayed in this. I thought that sequence in the museum was really tense and terrifying. And showed the clickers to be, because in the game when you're going up against, I sound like in the game. When you're going up against a normal infected person, they can attack you and you can fight back, and they're not good, but you can defeat them. Clickers, if they get you, they'll kill you. Like, it's kind of like a one-hit kill thing. Like, the clickers are really, really terrifying. The weakness that they have is that they can't see, so you can sneak around behind them and get kind of a sneak attack on them. But, if you just engage them in single combat, they will kill you. Yeah, what did you make of that sequence?
It's terrifying because first of all, they're gross. They're really gross. How can you make a mushroom look so bad? Because it's not just a mushroom. It's just a mushroom that opens and then like little strings come out of it. Oh, it's disgusting.
Yeah, the tendrils.
Yeah, and they're pretty unpredictable because you kind of, I don't know, with zombies, you kind of know, you have the running zombies, you have the slow zombies, you have the, jumping zombies, they're kind of predictable. Yeah. but the clickers are not predictable, which is scarier, I think. Also because a good thing about this series, there are not too many clickers.
I was just about to ask what you thought about that.
So that is also unpredictable. So you're never sure when they're going to be around. Because sometimes you don't see any for like an episode or something, and then suddenly they arrive, and you're like, I forgot about you guys.
Yeah, I've seen some complaints about people saying this zombie show doesn't have enough zombies in it, but I like how sparing they are with the infected.
Because when they're there, you're actually scared of them and you're wary. Yeah.
One thing that isn't in the game that is the end of this episode where they get to the state house and the game has added in the game, when you go through areas that are very heavily infested with clickers, there are spores in the air, and if you were to breathe in the spores, you would be infected. So when you go through those areas, you put on a gas mask. They took that out of the show because they didn't want the actors to be constantly covering their faces, which I understand. So instead, they've replaced it, not an exact replacement, but the new thing they've come up with is this idea that the fungus is connected through these tendrils that are all over the place, and if you say disturb one by stepping on it, it will alert all nearby infected that you're in the area. That is not from the games, but is a really clever addition. So in the game, when you get to the state house, some military Fedra people arrive and attack, and that's what Tess ends up getting killed by. Whereas in the show, Tess has been infected by a clicker, and she stays behind because infected are on the way, and she's gonna blow up the state house to protect them. A change they made that I really like it, and as a result, we get one of the more disturbing visual images in this show, which is the kiss. At the end of the episode. What did you think of that?
No.
That's new. All of that stuff about the tendrils coming out of the mouths of the infected people is all new that's not in the game, and it is unpleasant to look at.
It's so horrible to watch. It's so gross. No.
Truly.
Not good.
Truly grim.
No. Gross. Grim. those mushrooms, disgusting.
Yep. Well, by the end of episode 2, Joel and Ellie are officially a team, making their way to across the country to try and find the Fireflies, and we get to episode 3, which is called Long Time, and within minutes of airing was hailed as a classic episode of television, and is probably the most talked about and discussed episode of the entire season overall. It's the episode in which we meet Bill and Frank, and we largely spend our time in this episode away from Joel and Ellie, watching Bill and Frank's relationship grow. They've taken a tiny moment from the games, twisted and changed completely the relationship between Bill and Frank. It was always a romantic relationship in the game, but it wasn't as obvious, and also it seemed like maybe by the end of it, Frank had decided he wasn't keen on Bill anymore because of Bill's paranoia. But in the show, they change it just into being, look at how wonderful love could be in the apocalypse and how it can bloom. And it's a pretty incredible and upsetting piece of TV.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I loved it. First they die, but
we've got
great.
Nick Offerman as Bill and Murray Bartlett from The White Lotus as Frank.
Perfect casting. Perfect.
They work. They are brilliant together, and I love that episode. It is great. There's not much more to add because we talked about it on another episode.
Exactly.
But it just were you sold on the show by this point, or did this episode really kind of?
Oh no, I was sold.
Yeah?
I was sold from episode 1.
Were you expecting something like this?
No, not at all. Like, you always have. So if you if you compare it to The Walking Dead, there are people always looking for places to go, and so I could have guessed that maybe there was some like a safe place that people wanted to go to, like that was protected from the clickers. But the fact that nothing happens to them and they keep safe is refreshing.
Yeah, it is.
And they create a life together, and they, with their own rules, and they choose when to die. It's just a wonderful episode. I could have not imagined an episode like this, and I think it made me like the show even more because it showed a different kind of humanity rather than the everybody's evil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is some hope that some people are nice, and yeah, it's a great episode.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of, I think it shows a pretty high level of confidence to on the part of the because a lot of shows now, like prestige HBO type shows, will have an episode in a season that sort of removes itself from the main characters and tells a different story,
Yeah.
but not usually the third episode of the first season.
Yeah.
Like that is a very confident move to be like,
Yeah.
that, you know, be willing to pull away from the story you've set up for a full episode so early on.
Yeah.
But it paid off because everybody loved it. Then we go from there to the next two episodes sort of come as a pair. Episode 4 is Please Hold to My Hand, and is the first part of our adventures in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Contains a lot of setup. It opens in opens in a way that is very similar to what happens in the game, where Joel and Ellie are unable due to blockages to drive around Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Although in the game it's not Kansas City, I think it's Pittsburgh maybe. No, it's Kansas City in the show. They decide to drive through instead, and they are ambushed by a group of I don't even know what you'd call them, by an angry group of locals who have finally risen up and gotten rid of Fedra. In the game, you don't really get much backstory to them. There's certainly not a character like Kathleen, played by Melanie Linsky. They are just sort of people who are in this city, and they are killing people that are moving through the city in order to take their resources. Whereas in the show, you kind of get much more backstory into like who they are, why they're there, what they're doing.
Okay.
You learn about how Fedra have kind of, held them down and beaten them for so many years that they've finally just risen up and taken back control. And that's kind of what this episode is all about. There's that ambush scene ends in a fight where Joel is protecting Ellie, and then Ellie ends up shooting someone to protect Joel, and it's kind of like a collection of parts from the game put together into this one scene. It's a really good bit. And then the rest of the episode is sort of broadly Joel and Ellie making their way through Kansas City, trying to work out how to get out while we meet Melanie Linsky and her character Kathleen. Is it Kathleen? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Terrifying.
She is very scary, actually, because she looks quite sweet and she's got a sweet voice, but then she's quite evil. Yeah. Actually.
Yeah. But you get the sense that she's maybe been pushed into being this person by the events that have happened to her. In a similar way, you can compare her to Joel in some ways in terms of...
Yeah, well, it's a different time. Like, people have to do whatever they can to survive, and that's what she does.
Yeah, including being comfortable with killing children. Yep. And then irony of ironies, what ends up killing her? But we'll talk about that in a minute.
This is the episode with my favourite pun.
Okay, go on. We mentioned this last episode.
Yeah, you're better saying it than me. What is it?
Did you know that diarrhea is hereditary?
Yeah.
It runs in your genes.
No, it runs in your genes. And I think they actually were laughing.
Yeah, probably.
Because the episode is quite tense, and they managed to find a safe spot in at the top of at the top floor of the building, and they're just lying down, and Joel is like super serious as always, and Ellie just reads this pun, and and I think they're actually laughing because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
And
it's also from the game.
Is it?
The pun books are a thing in the game. There's bits throughout the game where Ellie will read out puns to Joel as you're walking around exploring. And then there's quite a long bit in the Left Behind sequence in the game, which we'll talk about later, with Riley, where Riley and Ellie read puns to each other for ages, which I don't think the pun book is in the Riley stuff in the show, which sort of, I kind of like that in the game you see Ellie reading out these puns and really enjoying them all throughout the game, and then when you do that sequence with Riley, and you see them reading these puns to each other, it kind of is like, oh, Ellie loves the puns because it reminds her of her friend. But
Riley gives her the second book of puns.
Oh, does she? Is that in the show?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good then. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, good stuff. So then once they found their way to that safe point in the skyscraper, the episode ends with Joel awakening to find him and Ellie at gunpoint through two characters, Henry and Sam.
Yes.
Who we've heard throughout the episode, Melaninsky's character desperately looking for Henry and Sam, but not finding them.
No.
But somehow Joel and Ellie have found them.
Yes.
Episode 5 is called, you might see the name of episode 5 if you look at my t-shirt.
Yeah, I was noticing his t-shirt is full of fungi. Endure and survive. I was wondering if it was to do with this episode.
See there.
Oh no! I hate. Oh, this is so disgusting. I can't believe I've got a t-shirt with those fungi.
Yep.
Oh, fungi.
Endure and survive. I wore it specially for today.
Oh, thank you, but it's disgusting. Put it away.
No. Endure and Survive is the name of episode 5, and it follows Joel and Ellie as they team up with Henry and Sam, who we discover are two people who are two brothers.
Yeah.
The younger one, Sam, is deaf and is a deaf actor, and the character in the game is not deaf. This is a change that they made for the show. And I was listening to a podcast with Craig Mazin, who's one of the showrunners that made Chernobyl, and Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of the game. And also one of the showrunners of the series, talking about why they made this change, and it was because they felt that if Henry and Sam existed as a duo, and they just communicated, in a traditional way, it sort of made them quite similar in a lot of ways to Joel and Ellie. Whereas if they made this change, it kind of created a whole new communication style and quietened it down in a lot of ways, and just they were able to explore a different type of communication and relationship, and I think it works really well, and it's great that they were able to find give a role like this to a real young deaf actor, and they worked really hard to make sure the sign language is really accurate, and the actor that plays Henry worked really hard and was coached by the actor that plays Sam to make sure that his signing seemed fluent and didn't seem rehearsed and staged, and I don't speak sign language, but it sounds like that came off and worked, and they are great, which makes this episode horrible.
Oh, horrible. Horrible. This is the episode where I decided I'm not going to like anyone, apart from Joel and Ellie, but I shouldn't like them either, because I think getting emotionally attached to anyone in this show is terrible.
Yeah.
Because some people deceive you as well.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, Henry and Sam, so they introduce themselves to Joel and Ellie. We sort of discover through various ways that I think Henry gave up. Did Henry give up Kathleen's brother in order to save Sam? So now Kathleen is determined to find and kill Henry and Sam. Doesn't mind killing a child. Children die every day, she says. At one
Sorry, it's not funny.
It's
just a weird reaction that I have. To tragedy.
Yeah, she's shown at one point by her right-hand man, whose name I don't remember, but the actor, the guy with the big beard, he plays Tommy in the game, Joel's brother, and he's great. So he, and the actor that plays Joel in the game is in the show as well, and I'll tell you when he turns up.
Oh.
So anyway, she's shown by her right-hand man at one point a room where the floor is cracking, kind of pointing towards the fact that the infected that have been herded underneath the city are imminently going to break out and be a big problem. She decides she doesn't care about that. She wants to find Henry and Sam first. This is her undoing. It becomes nighttime. They find a way out of the city. They're in the suburbs. They're moving along a street. There is a sniper in a building.
A very old sniper.
Yeah,
though.
this is again a slight change in the game. You sort of sneak around, you get up behind him, and you kill him. And he's just a guy. In the show, an interesting change they made is that he's just this incredibly old man, and the reason he's not been able to hit them is because he's an old guy, and I guess he's just been posted out here in the middle of nowhere. It's not anticipated that it's going to be an escape route for anyone particularly, and he's not expecting to see anyone, but he does, and Joel sneaks up behind him and deals with him. Kathleen and the rest all then turn up and attack them. Joel manages to shoot one of the vehicles and it crashes into a house. The floor breaks away and an unbelievable. If you're not happy with not having enough zombies in this show up to this point, a very large number of zombies escape, including our first sighting of a bloater.
A bloater. He was huge.
Yes, a bloater.
Like, disgusting.
Bloaters are supposed to be... So normally, like, a person will get infected, then they become these kind of infected that wander around. After many years, the fungus will crack and break their skull and grow out their head, and they turn into a clicker. Then eventually they find somewhere to kind of sit and huddle up against a wall, and we see a couple of shots of people like this where they just become part of the environment almost. They kind of just become fungal. Big, large people who it's difficult to control don't do this. They sort of go into the next evolution of it, which is to become a bloater, where the fungus has just covered you completely, destroyed your human body almost, but is still in control and moving around. In the game, bloaters will tear off bits of their body and fling it at you as like an exploding grenade. All these spores will come out. That doesn't happen in the show because it's ridiculous, but it's pretty scary in the game. But what also will happen in the game is if a bloater gets you and grabs Joel, it will do this horrific animation where the camera gets right in on Joel's face and the bloater will just pull Joel's head apart. Exactly what is done to Kathleen's right-hand man when the bloater gets him. That's a nice little Easter egg reference to the death animation from the game. This scene is brilliant. They're escaping. Kathleen comes to get them, and again, she's awful, and it's great because a little girl infected kills her, and it's ironic because she said that children die all the time, and then a child kills her.
Yeah, it's kind of. I kind of felt bad even for the bad people in this episode, just because they were trying to, like, they were under Fedra, which is kind of this terrible organization, kind of keeping them under control, and they were trying to do their best to, I don't know, like, they're bad people. However, they were bad people for a reason, which was being treated badly by Fedra and wanting to be free. But then with that, you have to, unfortunately, be a terrible person as well. So I felt kind of bad.
I know what you mean. But, it's tough, isn't it? But she does all, violence shouldn't necessarily beget violence, and
absolutely no.
Once they're in control, her focus should have turned to let's turn this into a community, such as something we'll see in maybe the next episode. Whereas instead, she's so consumed by the violence that has been done to her that she becomes possessed almost, and it's sad. But they escape, and we get to episode 6, which is called Kin.
Well. Yeah, but then do they?
Sorry, I forgot about the horrible bit, the really horrible bit.
So something happens in episode
5.
5? 5 where...
Look, Sam gets bitten. He gets infected. Ellie's like, hey, look, I'm infected and I'm still alive. It's fine. I'm going to rub my blood on you and you're going to live. People were like, how can Ellie be so stupid? She knows it's not going to work, I think. She's just trying to make him... She desperately wants her situation to mean something, but I think she knows it's not really gonna.
I think it's a bit of both. I think that maybe it's not that she believes it, but maybe she wants to have hope that her blood might work. Does she know that it's not going to work? I don't know. Would you fall asleep with a clicker? With the kid is going to become a clicker?
I think she tried not to fall asleep.
Yeah, but I would move room. Yeah.
But ultimately...
It doesn't matter what happens. She did a sweet gesture to a boy that was very scared, and I think that's wonderful.
It is. And then she wakes up the next morning. He's a zombie now. Attacks her. They tumble out into the main room where Joel and Henry are. And plays out the same it plays out in the game. Joel's going to shoot Sam. Henry... won't let him, and then Henry shoots Sam instead. Can't live with what he's done. Shoots himself. Bad times.
I did not like that.
No, it's pretty it's pretty upsetting stuff.
Yeah.
In the game, that moment happens, and then it cuts immediately to black, and you then it opens with them arriving in, well, it's not Jackson in the game, but arriving in what is the setting for episode 6. Whereas in this, you see the aftermath of them burying them, which I think was an interesting, kind of like that hard cut in the game where you don't see what happened and you just kind of have to intuit.
Yeah, but I think it shows that Ellie, because Ellie's quite hardcore, no feelings. Well, Ellie's quite tough, isn't she?
Mhm.
So until now, Ellie has been tough and has been, this tough kid. And this scene kind of shows that she does get affected by her surroundings, and she does get affected by people dying, and
Yeah,
she's not as tough as you would, that we think. And so I think I like that bit because she's actually shaken.
yeah, they do a similar. You see that you see that in Ellie in the game as well, but it happens at a slightly different point, and it kind of is used to show that in Ellie, but also emphasize Joel's still unable to discuss, emotional things like the death of a child and things like that. Either way, that happens. It's horrible. They move through.
Yeah.
They end up in episode 6, which is called Kin. They find their way via the warnings of 2 people that just live on their own in the middle of nowhere.
I quite like that scene.
Yeah. Who that guy? I can't remember his name, but he's been in everything. He's a really great actor. What's he called? Last of Us. Come on. Graham Greene, he's called, plays Marlon, and Elaine Miles plays Florence. These 2 people, they're both Indigenous Americans.
Yeah.
Just living on their own in the middle of nowhere, surviving, and they warn Joel and Ellie, don't cross the river. Come on. There's not good stuff over there, but they do cross the river, and what do they find, actually, is a thriving, bustling community of Jackson.
Yeah.
Kind of creating this mythological view of themselves as scary people, just as a means of survival, really. It doesn't seem like they're evil. They get picked up. There's a terrifying moment where Joel and Ellie think that some dogs are going to realise that Ellie is infected and she's going to be killed, but the dogs don't notice, which is great.
Yeah.
And Joel announces who he is, and the woman, is it Maria? Yeah, Maria, right? No?
Oh.
Because it's Maria. Because what's the firefly called? It's
Maria.
So Maria finds out who Joel is, takes him to her town. In the game, this all happens at a hydroelectric dam, and you don't see the town until the second game. But for the show, they were able to, knowing what was coming up in season 2, potentially, they were able to set this episode in the actual town of Jackson instead, and kind of layer in a bunch of little Easter eggs and foreshadowing references to stuff that will come in season 2, none of which I'll spoil for you now. But this episode is amazing, and I really loved it.
Yeah.
Because the town of Jackson is like a really vital, key element in The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
And we get there, and Tommy's there, who is Joel's brother. Diego Luna plays Tommy. Is that right, Diego Luna? Yeah. Gabriel Luna, sorry, not Diego Luna. Gabriel Luna plays Tommy. It's a big reunion between the 2 of them. And as with any family reunion, initially they're really happy to see each other, and then they have big arguments and fights because
they're brothers.
And it's a really amazing episode. It's got a great monologue from Pedro Pascal about why he doesn't want to take Ellie any further. Him and Ellie have a big confrontation about does she run off to a house? She runs off, doesn't she? And they chase her down to this house. A similar sequence in the game. Joel tells her he's not her father, which is shut up, Joel. That's a horrible thing to say.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's rough watching that play out. But by the end, and he does a very selfish thing of at the end saying, I decided to give you a choice of whether you want me or Tommy. He knows what her choice will be. He's just decided he's going to go with her.
Yeah.
But he can't, he's not brave enough yet to admit that he cares for her. So.
Yeah. Well, also after losing a daughter and not really getting over it, and then trying to protect another girl, it must be quite difficult.
Oh, yeah. It's been 20 years, but yeah.
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 So I love all of what do you think about the stuff in Jackson?
Oh, it's wonderful, but I don't know why they left. You would stay, no? Why would you leave? Stay in
She
Jackson.
thinks
There
that
is
she can
food.
save the world.
Yeah,
And they think that
yeah,
if they can go there, save the world, and come back to Jackson, it'll be waiting for them.
yeah, yeah. I liked because it kind of brought a little bit of normality to and a little bit of mundanity to the show, and maybe a little break for them to
Yeah,
relax.
definitely. And
Yeah,
that kind of will come more and more to define The Last of Us throughout the rest of this season, and especially what will become season 2 and 3, is people making choices that you just wish they wouldn't make.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
do. And understanding why, but like,
yeah. But I don't understand. Well, there'll be some choices towards the end that I'm gonna.
So,
Yeah,
before the end of episode 6, they leave Jackson. They head off to a university. I can't remember the name of the university, but go Rams! The sports team of the Rams. They
yeah,
find an abandoned lab and learn that the firefighters have moved on to, is it St. Mary's Hospital, I think it's called?
yeah. Somewhere else.
Somewhere else. Not Salt Lake City. I can't remember exactly, but somewhere else. But before they can move on somewhere else, they get attacked by some
Terrible
well,
people.
we don't know at this point.
Yeah, but they look terrible. Why would you just attack people?
Yeah, true. Now in the game, this plays out really differently in the game. In the game, you are in this building, you're escaping from these men, and Joel gets into a tussle with one of them on a second floor balcony. They push each other off the balcony. They both fall down. The man that he's wrestling with dies. Joel doesn't die,
Yeah.
but he pierces his entire torso on a big piece of rebar.
Oh my god.
That Ellie then has to lift him up off and move along. I think in a game you can sort of go with that, but I think in the show they realise
Yeah.
that like if they show an actor falling off a balcony and impaling himself and then surviving,
No.
it wouldn't really work.
No. It's not gonna happen. No.
So
It's already pretty crazy that he survives whatever.
So instead,
happens,
they
but-
tussle on the ground. A baseball bat gets snapped, and Joel is sort of stabbed through the stomach
Yeah.
with this baseball bat. Again, a pretty severe injury. You would very likely die from an injury like this. They escape from the others on on horseback. Then Joel falls off the horse, and Ellie suddenly, having been carried by Joel throughout the rest of the show, rightfully so, as she's a child, Ellie is now left in the position where suddenly she has to take charge and try to work out how these two are going to survive.
Yes.
And if Joel dies, maybe she'll feel a little bit of survivor's guilt. Why would she feel survivor's guilt? Let's find out. Episode 7. Left Behind.
Yes.
What did you make of episode 7?
I thought I quite liked the fact that they went back and showed Ellie's what happened, you know, the thing that changed Ellie's life.
Yeah.
And explained a little bit why Ellie's the way she is. And you know, another nice episode about friendship. And
A beautiful episode about friendship.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the episode Left Behind opens with Ellie having dragged Joel into a basement of a house,
Yeah.
and trying to keep him alive, and then we flash back to a couple of years earlier where she's living in a federal military camp, and the first big thing we learn about Ellie, Pearl Jam fan. Big
Yeah.
Pearl Jam fan. Well done, Ellie.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's due to Neil Druckmann apparently being an enormous Pearl Jam fan. In fact,
Okay.
in the game, in season 2 of the game, in the second game, Joel, as is mentioned in this season, Joel wants to teach Ellie to play guitar, and he does so through teaching her how to play and sing this Pearl Jam song. I can't remember the name of it, but it's off a Pearl Jam album called Lightning Bolt, which in the game timeline comes out just about the same time the world ends. So Joel must have really liked Pearl Jam because he must have learned this song like in the midst of an apocalypse. But the show sets itself 10 or so years prior to the game. in terms of like the show, the attack, the world ends in 2003, whereas in the game it ends in like 2013. So that Pearl Jam song never existed in the world of the show. So I really want to know how are they gonna solve this problem. What Pearl Jam song is Joel gonna teach Ellie instead? It needs to be. If it's not a Pearl Jam song, I'm gonna riot.
No, it'll have to be, because if not, it's going to be cancelled. The show is cancelled.
Exactly. And it's great because the Pearl Jam song in question, and the reason I can't remember the name of it, is it's just an album track. It's like the last track on their album Lightning Bolt, which isn't even. It's not a notable Pearl Jam album really, but it finds new meaning in its use in the game, and I'm interested to see what they do in the show. Anyway, more importantly, she's fighting, arguing. His superior officer tells her, look, you can carry on being a little rebel and you'll end up cleaning out toilets for the rest of your life, or you can mature and become an officer. And then while she's ruminating all of that, Riley, played by Storm Reid, to be seen in cinemas recently in the film Missing, which is great, and she is great, and also is in Euphoria. Zendaya's sister, right? Yep. Yeah. Riley arrives and has joined the Fireflies and takes Ellie off for an evening of fun and excitement at the local mall, where they ride a carousel and listen to a lullaby cover of Just Like Heaven by The Cure, which again is the best.
And they're in a mall. I love that. Yeah. Malls make everything better. Even the mall, even Stranger Things in the mall. Malls are incredible.
So in the game, you play when the game came out, you play for the entire game, and you never know about Riley. You never learn any of this stuff. And then a while after the game was released, they released as DLC an extra pack called Left Behind, and that was this sequence. And it is set as it is in the show during the part of the where Ellie is trying to keep Joel alive. And in the game, she's going around a mall in the present day, which is covered in infected and people trying to kill her. And then it keeps cutting back to the mall, whereas in the show they just focus on the mall of the past, which is fine. But it has loads and loads, like the bit where they put masks on and dance on the table. It's all there from the game.
Oh.
And I really liked this episode a lot. I think it's great that we learn all this stuff we learn about Ellie. I thought Storm Reid did a really good job as Riley, and watching the two of them fumble around admitting to each other that they have stronger feelings than just friendship for each other. And when they both realise that they have the same feelings, it's beautiful. And because it's The Last of Us, it lasts for all of 4 seconds before terror, horror, and tragedy arrive.
Yeah. It's horrible. Because also it's just in the background that that clicker. It's there, but it doesn't react straight away, and so it takes quite a while for the clicker to,
It's funny, again,
attack.
Another different in the game, it's not a clicker, it's like 1,000 clickers.
Is it?
1,000, it's like an infected, it's not a clicker, but yeah, like
infected.
Thousands of infected turn up and attack them in the and there's the whole sequence where you're running through the mall and clickers are pouring in infected are pouring in from all over the place, and eventually you both get bitten. Whereas in the show it's just this, and again it's this thing of like in a game, being attacked by 100 people and surviving makes sense because you're the main character and you have exceptional abilities. In a TV show it would look mad, so they made the correct choice there, and it's upsetting and horrible, but it is what it is. And Riley dies, and Ellie is the survivor, and will continue to be the survivor. And that takes us through to episode 8, When We Are in Need.
I cried at the end of this episode.
My mum cried at the end of this episode, and she doesn't often cry at stuff.
I was.
Ellie is hunting, attempting to survive. Looking after Joel, desperately needs medicine. She kills a deer and comes upon 2 men. One of these men is David. A bad guy. And interestingly, the other man is played by Troy Baker, who plays Joel in the game.
Okay.
So Joel.
But before she shoots the deer, we meet these two when David is preaching. Yeah. And he's a freaking weirdo.
He's a weirdo. He's a weird creep.
But then it's kind of weird because it's like, do you like him or you don't like him? I wasn't sure if I should or not.
Again, it's such an interesting change from, because like, you know, I was watching it and I was like, I know who you are. You're a bad guy.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, maybe you seem bad, but maybe you're not bad. There were moments I was like, I don't like you, but then other moments like, oh, maybe you're not too
Yeah.
bad, because it does give you a full sense of security. This show, because some people, sometimes people that you think are bad are
Yeah,
good.
and then sometimes people you think that are good are cannibals.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Paedophile cannibals, even.
Oh, please.
A bad guy all around. David
Bad,
engineers a
bad.
situation in which he trades the deer for some medicine, and as is often the case in media, it's just medicine in a syringe that you can inject into a man and it will make him better.
Yeah.
But fine.
Yeah.
Ellie runs off, gives this medicine to Joel. She's obviously tracked by David and his cronies. She's captured, put in this town in a cage. And again, this scene is incredible in the game and it is incredible in the show. Ellie and David kind of showdown between these cages. We slowly learn that David, as well as being a cannibal, is an all-around creepo who has
He's horrible.
awful designs on Ellie. Doesn't want to eat her. But
No.
she breaks his fingers in one of the more satisfying moments in anything.
Yeah. It was
and tells
wonderful.
her to tell people that the girl who broke his fingers is called Ellie, and she's a badass, and I love her. And inappropriate.
Yeah.
I love her. I love her character.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Ellie's the best, and she escapes, and they have a showdown in a restaurant. Again, this is like the only boss fight in the game where like you're creeping around this restaurant trying to sneak up on David and attack him, and he's got this enormous machete that will basically just kill you in one hit, and he sets fire to it, and it's an amazing moment in the game. It's an amazing moment in the show.
Yeah.
And again, in the game and in the show both, once Ellie finally overcomes David, she just unleashes her pent up sadness and grief and rage.
Yeah.
And
with like it's beautiful, it's like incredible to watch because like there's all this fire behind her and she just totally goes ham on this disgusting man.
And she's traumatized and she runs out of the restaurant completely
not
traumatized, doesn't know is anyone going to be there. She and finds herself almost immediately in the arms of Joel, who's recovered enough to go and look for her. Somehow.
Miracle.
And she's screaming and crying and telling him not to touch her, and he calls her baby girl, and we all cry.
Yeah, we all cry. It was such a roller coaster, that episode, because David is a man of God and he's a preacher and is is keeping everybody under control. I don't know how, but it's amazing how certain people can just keep everybody under control.
But
and he's just feeding them human flesh.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. And he's a horrible man. And
but Joel is daddy.
Joel is daddy. And Bella Ramsey is a freakishly incredible actor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they both are. That scene with the two of them embracing is amazing. I really liked it. And it was amazing how like no shade on my mum, but my mum doesn't normally articulate, the inner emotional stories of characters, but she was talking to me about this episode and she was like, I cried at the end because I realised it was the first time she'd had a parental figure, and she'd had this denied from her for all her life, and having somebody call her baby girl and embrace her and show her that he loved her is something she'd never had before. And I was like, it's like such a testament to the power of the show that people can pull that from it so easily, and that's what they want you to pull from it. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
That episode is amazing.
So good.
And that brings us to episode number 9, the finale, Look for the Light. Making a nice little bookmark, actually, because episode 1 is called When You're Lost in the Darkness, and episode 9 is called Look for the Light.
Yeah. I didn't notice that until right now.
Neither did I until I was writing out the names of the episodes earlier. But it makes sense because that is lots of people have got that tattooed on them. Let's say it's a big saying from the games.
Okay.
this is fairly. This is a very faithful recreation of how the final sequences play out in the game, with the addition of
Okay.
a scene that is never in the game where we see the birth of Ellie.
Yeah.
A weird thing to watch as a huge fan of the games, because the actress playing Ellie's mother, Ashley Johnson, is Ellie.
Ah,
Yeah,
is it?
that is Ellie from the game, and she sounds and looks exactly like Ellie, and it's so odd to see Ellie giving birth to Ellie.
Which is good because Ellie Bella Ramsey kind of looks a little bit like Ellie in the show.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
game. So
It makes
yeah.
sense, and also, again, there's a very good podcast, the Last of Us podcast, that is done by Troy Baker, who voices Joel in the games, hosts it, and it's they released an episode for each episode of the show, and he interviews Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin each time, and they talk about how they made the show and things. Then for the finale, they also have Ashley Johnson there, and Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin are talking about how important it was for them to have Ashley Johnson play that role, and how, when Neil Druckmann talks about how, well, when he first was making the game, Ellie was not a really very fleshed out character, and a lot of the characters they ended up finding for Ellie came from Ashley Johnson and her performance.
Oh wow.
So Ellie is Ashley Johnson in a lot of ways, and so they really, to have that link there in the show meant a lot to them, and clearly meant a lot to Ashley Johnson as well, and it's great. It's a good scene, and apparently as well, it was a scene that he wrote years ago to be included in a comic book or something. So it's always been in his head, this idea that the reason Ellie is immune to infection is because her mother was bitten pre the umbilical cord being severed.
Yeah.
Somehow giving her an immunity without giving her the infection itself. And it's interesting that this has been in his head for so long, but this is the first time it's been publicly a thing for fans of the game.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a pretty great sequence.
Mm.
And then we get into basically the finale. How did you feel about the finale?
This is the episode that I completed my so because you love, well, from the beginning you have an affinity with Joel, and you love him and you feel sorry for him, and I feel like the decisions that he made in this episode were all terrible. And by the end, when he's lying to Ellie, I feel like he has just completely changed, and I don't really like him anymore.
Wow.
Like him, I don't have. I feel for Ellie because he blatantly lies to her, and she knows he's lying. And it's just kind of like the character that you love, and he wants to protect her, but he didn't have to go at it how he was doing. But also the Fireflies could have been a little bit less shitty.
Yeah.
So I think everybody apart from Ellie is just a bit terrible in this episode.
Pretty selfish.
Very selfish. And I know like Ellie has a connection with the leader of the Fireflies because,
Marlene.
Marlene. But I feel because they have that connection, Marlene should have informed Ellie of what was going to happen. And also Joel. Because although she hates Joel has kept Ellie safe. And so everybody makes a bad decision. And in the end, it's just terrible. Yeah. I felt a little bit bad, like, by the end with Joel lying to Ellie. Because their relationship should be based upon trust. And
but is it still based upon trust? Do they both know? Is the lie an unspoken truth between them that they both know about but don't talk about?
Like, what do you mean?
She knows he's lying. He knows she knows he's lying. They move on.
Will they move on?
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what's going to happen next, but that left me a bit. I know I wanted him to save Ellie, but I didn't want him to like create complete carnage. And
but he has the only way to save her.
Yeah.
What about, so think of it from, because Joel, his daughter died, it killed him, it destroyed the man that was Joel, He spent 20 years with a closed heart, not allowing anyone else in. He was in a relationship with
Yeah.
Tess, and you would not know that they were in a
No.
relationship.
Yeah.
He was a closed book, like a golem, just moving through the world. And
Yeah.
he's been tasked with this mission to take Ellie across the country, and it's completely changed him as a person, and he's finally allowed himself to open up and be a human being again. And
Yeah.
then suddenly they're saying to him, no, that's gone. You're good. The position you were in last time when you loved your daughter and she was killed, we've created
Yeah.
that same thing. We've given you another daughter to love, and we're going to kill her.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that it wasn't completely reasonable that him going ham on the Fireflies. A bit of communication would have been nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Like Ellie could have decided if she wanted to sacrifice herself for humanity.
what do you think she'd have decided?
I guess she probably thought that was going to happen. I guess
Well,
she
she
probably
seemed
would
pretty
have gone.
certain she was coming back to Jackson, though, didn't she?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think
then-
she would have realised that it would kill her.
Okay, but maybe if the Fireflies went, since the Fireflies are about freedom, she could choose freedom of choice. You can choose. Ellie, do you want to sacrifice yourself, or do you want to go back and live in Mushroom Land?
The
And,
Fireflies refused to allow her that choice.
Exactly.
As does Joel.
Yeah, and so everybody apart from Ellie has made a wrong decision, and you're just kind of like, everybody seems terrible.
It's interesting. In the game, it plays out. It's pretty much exactly as it is in the game, but in the game, it's kind of more carnage because you're playing as Joel, so you really do massacre like 50 guys. But in the game, they're less clear about the fact it will work. In the game, it's almost a bit of an ambiguous, we have to kill her to get this thing out and examine it, but we don't know if it will necessarily... They don't really say one way or another whether it will cause a cure.
Exactly.
But in the show, they're pretty specific, clear about, if we do this, we will make a cure.
But it's not certain, isn't it?
It's more certain in the show than it is in the game.
Yeah.
It's one of those, they talked about in the podcast about it. They talk about how they didn't change the ending at all because you don't change an ending that's correct. It's the correct ending to the story, and it is. It's horrible and it makes you upset, but it's the right way for it to end. And I'm so glad they kept that moment where, at the end, where Ellie says to Joel, "Tell me that you're telling me the truth." And he says he is, and she just says okay, and the camera lingers on her face, and you don't know, you don't know, and it's the perfect way to end the series.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, a lot of people felt it was the perfect way to end the whole thing, and there should never be any more. Leave it there. But then they made a part 2, and in my opinion, it's better. So.
Yeah, so we're gonna have The Last of Us 2.
We will have The Last of Us 2 and 3 because
exciting.
The Last of Us Part 2 game is about twice as long as the original, so there'll be 2 seasons from that. And that,
which is quite exciting. I'm looking. I don't think you should stop there because I want to see how more these characters can develop and change. And,
and it's. I'm not going to spoil it or say anything that happens, but what's great about Part 2 is it isn't here's Joel and Ellie on another adventure. It doesn't view it as let's make another video game with basically the same stuff going on. They view it as what would happen next in this world with these characters, and it's incredible. I really love it. The finale surprise. I think because it's the shortest episode of the series, and
it's very
people
short.
didn't expect that, but it just goes through. It sort of. I don't think it will be anyone's favourite episode of the series because it just sort of gets through those events and does what it needs to do, and then gets out. But it's
No, it's fine. It's a fine episode. It's not the best. But it just also makes you question what would you do, because would you save humanity? Would you volunteer to save humanity? Would you do what Joel did?
Well, it's interesting. They talked in the Last of Us podcast about how they did some surveys. They showed the ending to different groups of people, and in groups of people who weren't parents, it was about 50-50 people saying whether or not Joel should have done what he did. In groups of parents, 100% of people said he made the right choice.
Oh my god. Um, that is crazy. Like him absolutely this like killing everyone with no
But
remorse.
it's for his daughter. And
It's-
they're
It's
going
not-
to kill his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I just feel like the Firefly should have had a conversation. I think that's
But that's the are they in some ways becoming the new Fedra? Is that like, are they wanting to
Yeah.
replace Fedra with a similar system, but it's just them in control instead of Fedra when
Yeah.
they make the decisions?
Yeah. Exactly, which is terrible. I don't think Joe should have killed everybody. I don't think Ellie should have been killed without her consent. But I don't, Joe did exactly what the fact that parents would go, Joe did what he needed to do. Is like, well, no, not really, because he killed a load of people. Parents are crazy, aren't
Well, I think
Bloody
I
hell,
think
when
you
the
have
like
to,
baby cubs get.
have to be crazy to be a parent, maybe.
I guess so. Yeah, 100%.
So overall, as a season, out of 5, what are you giving it?
5.
5 mushrooms out of 5.
5 mushrooms out of 5.
Um,
It's good. It's entertaining. It's got the right amount of mushrooms. It's got the right amount of evil people. It is not totally it's not totally negative as you can, zombie films can be. And the acting is incredible and it's really well done.
Yeah.
What would you
Oh,
give it?
5 out of 5. I mean, it's one of my favourite
Yeah.
games, and I think that they absolutely, like, it's by some distance the best adaptation that's ever been of a video game, and it could have, it always had the potential to be that, because the story transcends. The Super Mario Brothers movie I really like. The reviews for it haven't been amazing.
Yeah.
That's a game with a story that's quite basic. Obviously, it's about a princess being saved from a dinosaur, but The Last of Us has always had a story that could have translated well to some other medium, and they did it. All right, before we say goodbye, I've found a handful of lists to look at.
Yes.
The first one I'm going to show you is Nerdist.com's list of the biggest moments the Last of Us series adapts from the games. So they've listed some moments that they felt perfectly encapsulated moments from the games. So you didn't play the game, so I thought this might be interesting for you to learn about.
Yeah.
So from episode 1, they've got Joel's birthday watch. That is hardcore from the game. He is always wearing that watch in the game once it's there, and it's got the little bullet hole in it. So they kept that around. The beginning of the journey is identical in some ways as well. Joel and Tess go off to find Robert, who's screwed them over in a deal. And that is equally what happens in the game. Yeah,
okay.
Robert. The journey through Boston is the same from episode 2. The sequence in the museum is adapted almost exactly as it is in the game. With the clickers in episode 2.
Is it like visually very similar as well?
Visually,
like
really,
kind of the
visually
set
really
design.
similar. The set design is almost identical.
Wow.
They're hiding behind these glass cabinets and stuff. It's almost the same, but in the game you're in control rather than watching. But yeah, it's almost the same. They've listed here the Capitol building, which is, I guess the way it all looks is almost identical, but in the game it's Fedra that shows up. In the show it's in the show it's not Fedra, it's just infected people. Episode 3 is pretty different. Bill is less of a jerk. Bill is horrible in the game. Nick Offerman's character. He's obnoxious. Like in the game, he's alive when you arrive. He's not dead. Frank is dead. Frank's killed himself after being bitten. And Bill doesn't know this. Bill thinks Frank's just left. And you kind of go through the town with Bill to kind of try and find a car battery. And Bill is just obnoxious and horrible, really rude to Ellie constantly, and pretty different stuff. But what they have kept is the letter that you find, where Joel finds this letter from Bill at the end, talking about how if anyone finds our bodies, it's probably going to be you, Joel. You know that bit where he reads that letter? Yeah. You find a very similar letter in the from Frank, and it's basically a letter from Frank telling Bill, "I hate you now, and I've left because you're so annoying." And if you give it to Bill, Bill scrunches it up and throws it on the floor, and you can pick it back up and it's all crunched up. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Episode 4, the puns. Again, like I mentioned earlier, they're from the game.
The pun. That pun is so good.
There's a great bit in the game that they keep in the show where Ellie asks Joel if the Hank Williams cassette tape makes him nostalgic, and Joel's like, I'm not as old as you think I am. And also the bit where she finds one of Bill's Fun Time magazines and asks why all the pages are stuck together. Also comes from the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the gunfight in episode 4, when they get to Kansas City, the gunfight that they have in that shop with Ellie rescuing them at the end is very, very similar. Henry and Sam is very similar, but Kathleen's not in it.
Okay.
But the bit when they die, etc. Oh, there's a great bit in episode, when they're going through the tunnels underneath Kansas City and they find that room with all the toys in it and stuff.
Yeah.
That's an amazing sequence. In the game, it's after you've escaped from Kansas City. It's like you're going through another little area with Henry and Sam, and you come across this community basically that's died, and you're just walking through the remnants of their community they set up in the sewers, and you read all these letters that kind of tell you the story of these people, and how there was a guy who was out on sea on a boat, and when he came back from the sea, he found this family, and they all kind of lived together in the sewer system, and how they looked after and protected each other. It's a really amazing bit of the game where it's this environmental storytelling that you kind of see a little bit of in the show when they're in that room, but that's a huge bit in the game that's really good. Ellie loves a comic book called Savage Starlight, which is from the game. The sniper that's shooting at them in the suburbs is from the game. The bloater that comes up from underneath, as I told you, is from the game. Bloater. Sam dying, of course. Episode 6 is pretty different. The scene where Joel asks Tommy to go with Ellie instead is taken straight out of the game. And then when Ellie and Joel have that big fight and she rides off, that's straight from the game. When they go to the university and have that fight and Joel nearly dies, pretty similar. All the Left Behind stuff is basically the same. That's like one of the most accurate recommend things, especially the Halloween store. Those masks that they wear, you wear those in the game. They're exactly the same masks. It's really cool to see those in real life. That scene with David and Ellie in the Ellie in the cage is almost the bit where she breaks his fingers and stuff. All of that is straight from the game. Yeah. And the cannibals. And like I said, the bit in the restaurant where they have the fight, and then the bit where Joel and Ellie hug is again taken from the game. And then the finale. Oh, another bit that I didn't know if they'd put in. We didn't talk about it, and I didn't know if they'd put it in the show. The giraffes.
Ah, the giraffes. Yeah.
Real giraffes, not CGI giraffes, like some people thought. Yeah. That's in the game as well, and it's a beautiful moment of downtime just before the action of the finale, where you see the childlike joy as Ellie sees these giraffes and is able to stroke one. It's a really great bit.
So it's pretty faithful to the game.
Yep. And it ends exactly the same way with Ellie asking Joel, and Joel says, "I swear," and Ellie says, "Okay," and then it cuts to black.
Oh, okay, you liar.
Right.
So, yes.
Last one. Do you want to very quickly hear BuzzFeed's 15 saddest moments?
Yes. I don't know. Maybe
number 15 when Joel builds a gravestone for Tess at the end of in episode 3. By the river. Number 14. I'm going to do these really emotionless. Number 14, when Joel is protecting Ellie and he flashes back to when Sarah died. When that's when he attacks the guard in episode 1, isn't it? Yeah. Number 13, when Ellie confronts Joel about leaving her and tells him she knows about Sarah, and he says, "I'm not your father." Heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's terrible. Terrible.
When number 12, when Bill gets shot by the raiders and Frank thinks he's going to die.
Oh, that was
Number 11, at the start of episode 2, when the professor in Indonesia explains that there's no vaccine or treatment and they should just nuke the entire city of Jakarta.
So
pretty upsetting.
You can't do that.
Number 10, when that monologue that Joel has when he tells Tommy everything that he's been going through, which is why he doesn't want to take Ellie.
Yeah.
Devastating. Number 9, when Tess sacrifices herself to let Joel and Ellie escape.
Yeah.
Number 8, when Ellie fights off David, kills him, and then reunites with Joel.
No, that's number 1
Yeah,
for
I'd
me.
say that's number 1. What did they... Oh, number 7, when Sarah dies.
Oh, yeah.
It's also pretty sad. Number 6, when we see Ellie get born and see what happens to her mum.
Yeah, that's pretty
I mean,
sad.
she dies. Her mum
Yeah.
dies as she's being born.
Yeah, I just think the one with David, like after David, is just the saddest. I actually
Number
cried.
5, when
Yeah.
Joel goes to save Ellie, even though he knows it might mean dooming the world.
I think that's upsetting. It's not
No.
like just made me angry.
Okay, what
more
about
than
number
sad.
4, when he lies to Ellie about it afterwards?
Oh, that was just terrible. Terrible.
What
Joel.
about, is this sadder than Joel and Ellie reuniting after killing David? When Henry shoots Sam and then shoots himself.
Oh no, that was terrible. See, you just forget those really sad moments, and then you just.
Or what about number 2, when Ellie and Riley are both bitten by an infected, and we know there's only hope for one of them, even though they don't.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
And then number 1.
Number 1. What is
Number
number
1's
1?
obvious when you think about it. It's probably the right choice. When
Bill
Bill
and
and Frank
Frank
spent their last day together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Pretty upsetting program.
Yeah,
eh?
it is. It's pretty. Oh man.
Just a lot of sad moments in 10 episodes.
Yeah, how did they fit so many sad moments into just 10 episodes?
Oh, it's not even 10, it's 9
Yeah,
episodes.
9 episodes of TV, 15 sad moments. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing I want us to do, I've not prepped you for this at all, but I'm going to write all of this down. I want you to give me 5 predictions for season 2.
Oh, 5 predictions.
Because
for
I know
season
what's
2.
going to happen,
Okay.
but you do not.
Okay, so 5 predictions for season
And we're going
2.
to, once season 2's been out, we're going to check this list and see how accurate you were.
Oh. Okay, so there's going to be some tension between Joel and Ellie.
Okay.
So there might be some separation between Joel and Ellie somehow.
Joel and Ellie. Tension between Joel and Ellie
Separate.
may be being separated
Yeah.
somehow. Okay.
More clickers, more like clickers.
More clickers as in like types of clickers or just more clickers?
I think, you know where the Fireflies Tommy lives?
Jackson.
What's that?
Yeah.
Jackson. I think Jackson is going to be raided by either people or clicker or like fungi.
Okay, Jackson will be raided by either infected or
Yeah.
raiders. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, like, because I'm not sure because you said they're not going to repeat, so I'm not sure there's going to be a cure. I think the cure thing has gone. Is going to
Well, that
go.
can be a prediction that's not a concern anymore.
Okay, so the cure thing is not a concern anymore.
So the cure is not important to the story.
Yeah.
Okay? I've written it. It's
Joel-
capitalised The Cure as if it's the band. The Cure, they don't. Robert Smith is not relevant in this world anymore.
Joel dies.
Wow. Where's that coming
Yeah.
from?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of another 2. So I'm just like.
Okay.
Ellie becomes a leader of something.
Interesting. Ellie becomes a leader of something. Ellie takes on a leadership role.
Yeah. Managerial skills, you know.
Okay, so we've got tension between Joel and Ellie maybe being separated. We've got Jackson will be raided by either infected or raiders.
Yeah.
We've got the cure is not important to the story.
It is definitely not. The Cure band is definitely not important.
Number 2, Joel dies. And number
Yeah.
1, Ellie takes on a leadership role.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't really know necessarily if you're right or wrong on these because they could change things. I don't know
maybe.
exactly how they're going to adapt it, but I can't make predictions because they'd be informed by massive spoilers.
Do you know when it's going to come out?
It will be a while. It won't be this year. It'll be maybe next year, late next year, or the year after.
So don't lose the list.
It's on my phone in my
George.
notes app, which is synced to the cloud. So.
Oh, the cloud.
The cloud.
Nice.
That cloud.
Is that cloud?
That cloud. Okay. That's been The Last of Us, an incredible achievement in television. I cannot wait for season 2, but it probably will be a slightly long wait. But we will talk about it plenty when it arrives, I'm sure. But for now, we'd like to invite you to join us next time for a return to your regularly scheduled programming of Culture Catch Up. You can expect me to be discussing Evil Dead Rise, Renfield.
You watched it?
Yeah, spoiler warning.
Oh.
Sorry. That's about Renfield, by the way, not Evil Dead Rise.
I mean.
Oh no, I watched Evil Dead Rise. Oh,
yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. I was surprised.
No,
by
sorry, Evil Dead Rise.
Okay.
Oh, Renfield.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay.
I'm going to talk. You need to watch this movie. You would freaking love this movie. You should look it up. How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Okay.
How to Blow Up a Pipeline. What a film! I can't wait to discuss that one with you. And it's based on a book. You'd probably find the book interesting as well. You should look that stuff up, and you should see what if you find it engaging, because I think you would. Anyway, I'll be talking about those things. Alex, I'm sure, will be talking about beef, which I've not watched any beef at all yet. I need to get on the beef train.
I've finished it.
Oh really? Is it worth it?
So worth it.
Okay, I'll get onto beef then.
So worth it. Just insane.
But I've got so many things. Ted Lasso, Rabbit Hole, this new Kiefer Sutherland show. Yellow Jackets is back for season 2.
Yeah, but watch beef before first.
Well, I won't, because I've already started watching all those other things. But I will get to beef.
Oh.
Okay. Because I like Ali Wong and Steve Yeun, so it'll be good. So join us for discussion of all those things. I'll either have watched some of beef or I won't have done, but we'll discuss it either way. And yeah, that'd be great. And then after that, we'll be doing our top 5 Studio Ghibli films, which is sure to be lovely. So join us for that in the next couple of weeks. And it's been a pleasure to be with you. And thank you so much. Love you so much.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.